Welcome back! So, more cooking, more baking as it is. I've made some biscuits and as a result I've been left with some egg whites. Now, I know people that throw away egg whites, and in my philosophy you don't throw away food unless it walks on its own, in which case you let it go. So we do many things with egg whites. Of course you can add it to a kind of frittata or scrambled eggs, so you can, actually what my mother does, she boils them in some vinegar and eats them like that, and of course they're full of proteins, albumin and all those kind of things. I know athletes do a lot of eat a lot of egg whites, but in this case we're going to do something that perhaps is not great for athletes, and that is meringue. Now this is going to be a French meringue. There are two kinds of meringue, and I'm not quite sure why. The French meringue is really simple. The so-called Italian meringue seems to be fiendishly difficult, and you have to melt the sugar and make sure that the temperature is fine, so it's too much mess, too much fuss. So we're going to do these basic ones. Again, it's my granddad recipe. It's very simple, and the tricky thing with meringue is the cooking, because they need to be cooked but at a very low temperature. I tend to do it at about 80, and the oven has to be, I don't think it's the same thing with ventilated oven, because this actually, the ventilated oven just moves the heat around, doesn't it? So it's not fixed, although, I mean, this is just my interpretation of it. What we actually do, we cook it with the oven slightly open, and it would take about 1 hour, 1.5 hours. So it's something we usually do, my granddad used to do at the end of the day when you use the oven is going down, and you just leave it there to basically dry up. Apart from that, it's an incredibly simple process, although it's a pretty messy one. Again, it's proper pasticceria. It makes a real mess when you actually have to do it. I'm going to do a selection of it, but let's go to the basic. The basic is that we need, in terms of proportion, is to 1 quantity of egg white, 2.5 of sugar. And all we need is some basic granulated sugar. That's it, nothing else. Now, I have about 100 grams, perfectly, 98 grams, okay, I'm going to call it 100. And then take away 7 grams from the sugar. 100 grams of egg white, which means we need 250 grams of granulated sugar. There we go. Now, you can do this by hand, but if you have the equipment, I would use it. And as it is, we are blessed with the equipment. So we have one of these amazing food processor. So all we need to do is have the right tool, the right implement, and you put the egg and the sugar in at the same time, like so. Alright. And I would put it down to not actually strong speed. Very important. Plug the accessory in. There we go. So I'd say speed 2 probably, which is already quite. And we leave there for about 10 minutes. We are back for the second installment of our meringue, and as you can see, I got equipped because it's going to be messy. This is there's no getting away when you're actually dealing with egg white and sugar. It's just you know, I'm sure there are professionals who can do it without making a mess, but I'm not one of them. So here we go. So the egg white and the sugar have been beaten to death to the point when they are like soft peak, and you can see it's just it won't come down. Yeah, this is slightly solid. So what we're going to use, you can, if you don't have it, or you're not very good with a sucker poche, you don't feel confident with it, you can actually use a spoon and just spoon them in. The shape is not going to be perfect, but who cares? It's very artistic. I'm going to use the sucker poche, and I don't actually know how you call these. Sucker poche thing. It's a sucker poche thing. Quite a wide one. Ziggunated. Just like that. We are going to put our egg whites, beaten egg whites, in this sucker poche. And this is where it gets sticky as well as messy, as you can see. So it's not so liquid, so it doesn't do what sometimes liquid do when you put them in a sucker poche, which is run all over. This one's quite solid from that point of view. Too solid in a way. Look at that. And wait. Here we go. So then what we're going to do, I'm just going to do some really basic. See, there are people who are very good at this and elegantly will close their sucker poche and not have anything coming out the wrong way. The other problem with the sucker poche is you're supposed to avoid air bubbles because they just flutter when you do that. Anyway, with the sucker poche, I'm just going to make some really basic ones. Not too small, but not too big. And these are just kind of like finger meringue. You can do all sorts of things with meringues. This is the most basic exercise. I do little mushrooms, little meringue mushrooms, which I might do some other time, as it's slightly more time consuming than this. All considered, I wasn't too messy. But here we are. Now, because these are tiny and beautiful and sweet, it's not going to take so long to cook. Still, because the temperature is going to be very low, it's probably going to take about an hour. So the trick is, in this specific oven, I'm sure different ovens you will have to adjust. All I do, I'm going to use this to keep the oven slightly open like that. And the temperature is about 90. Because if it's too high, it's just they cook too fast, they lose sort of like, they lose mellowness. I don't know, and they can also burn. And I think that they are just absolutely wonderful when they have a bit of like chewy bits inside. But for the moment, let's just like put them there. About 90 degrees. I've used only the hearth, not the oven. Sorry, heaven, not heaven or sky. I don't know. We call it earth and heaven. And it's on the third rack, so that it's not too near the heat and has no heat from the top. And I'm just going to leave it here for about an hour. Here we are. These have been in the oven for about an hour. Well, quite precisely an hour, and you can see They are now solid and they come off the baking paper really easily. And so, yeah, it's like you can see, they come off very easily. So they're ready. And little delicious clouds of sugar, pretty much. So that's all. As I said, they were in the oven for an hour. These are very nice. I mean, people like them. People like to eat them just like this. I find them very sweet. They're good with coffee. They are absolutely delicious with whipped cream. You can pair two like this if you want to do something unusual. And put whipped cream, or you can do meringue macaron and use some kind of chocolate ganache in the middle. Just eat them like that. And as I said, it's a long process in the oven, but to make them itself, it doesn't really take long at all. Okay, so there we go. Enjoy.